Welcome back to the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent.
And I'm Tia Graham. And among some Americans, there's a growing awareness that big companies like Amazon, Walmart, and Target hold so much wealth and power, it translates to political influence. The optics are hard to ignore. Amazon owner Jeff Bezos was front and center at President Trump's inauguration. He donated $1 million to get Trump elected. Meanwhile, retail giants like Target and Walmart have chosen to reverse their DEI policies after Trump dismantled them at the federal level. With all this in mind, some people are using their wallets to show where they stand. The grassroots group, the People's Union US, urged people to participate in an economic blackout last week. They encouraged Americans to boycott major corporations, and if you needed to shop that day, the group said to support small, independent businesses only using cash.
Yeah, Tia, according to its website, the People's Union wants to unite Americans to regain control of the economy, the government, and the country's future. And they say that to do this, people have to oppose and expose the industries, the corporations, and the politicians who've built an economy that they say keeps people in a state of struggle. So what has this meant for local businesses? Have they been seeing more customers? And what barriers do they face to stay afloat, especially when their competitors are retail giants that sell goods at artificially low prices? And we want to hear from you. How often do you shop at locally owned businesses, and what's your reasoning? Let's go right to the phones to Alberta in Detroit. How do you shop local?
First of all, I want to thank you for this opportunity. And if you would oblige me, I want to acknowledge the loss of Luther Keith, a brother in this city who we absolutely loved. And I hope that he knows this city loved him like he loved Detroit. He was a fighter.
Thank you, Alberta. We were just talking about him before we got on the air. Thank you so much for that. Please go on.
You're welcome. This topic will be important to him. Hear me clearly, my first priority is to shop Detroit and to shop Black Detroit. I feel anything different is akin to cutting my nose to spite my face. We must support where we live. I am not going to take my dollars across 8 Mile unless I am absolutely, it's unavailable in any other source here in Detroit. It's in my heart. It's in my blood. I still live in the house I was born in on Pennsylvania Street on the east side of Detroit. I am committed to this city. I love my city, and I believe that Detroit's best days are yet to come.
Alberta, just really quickly, you're a native East Sider. You've been there your whole life. Can you just talk about the positive that you're seeing right now, especially when we see the growth of Detroit businesses, especially Black-owned businesses within the city?
Yes. Well, I'm not ashamed. I'm so pleased to say I have my 10 years. So I'm 70 years old. So now the rest of this is bonus years. Okay, I've lived what God promised me. Now I'm in my bonus years. And during these years, I'm going to say it as I see it. I'm going to continue to build up my city. I see people renovating their homes in my neighborhood. Look, there was a time when you could buy a house over here off of Pennsylvania for $500. And I'm here to tell you today that a house sold across the street from me for $600,000. Go figure. Something. But
Alberta. Okay. We've lost Alberta from Detroit. Thank you so much for calling in. The phone lines are open. The number is 313-577-1019. We're talking about local businesses and why you support them or not, the difficulties that you perceive in supporting them, or maybe you have made more of a shift and you're supporting those shops more, we want to hear from you. And a few local businesses will be joining us this hour to give us some answers to some of the questions we've been wondering if they're seeing more shoppers as there is this growing national conversation about the power and politics that are connected to big corporations. Catherine Batsios is a community programmer at Book Suey in Hamtramck, and that's a cooperatively owned bookstore. Catherine, welcome to the Metro.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi. So, can you first explain what a cooperatively owned bookstore is?
So there's about 12 of us, right? And we work this bookstore together with equal say, equal input. We check it like it's truly a like in like a there's no hierarchy, there's no order to things. It's merely like playing to strengths, right? So we all staff the store. We all pick out books to buy to put on our shelves. We all have input with who our community partners are, what our goals and dreams for the bookstore is, what we are beyond a bookstore, how we conduct ourselves in the community, and how we welcome the community into our bookstore. So it's just a very pluralized identity in terms of how we get things done.
That's fascinating, Catherine. So, with no hierarchy, then, to my mind, it sounds like it's really important that you have a diverse group of people working at the bookstore. If everyone has an equal say in things, is that how things are reflected there?
We play to our strengths. I think one of the strongest things about our group of folks that run this beautiful bookstore is that we have such different disciplines and creativities and understandings of what the world has to offer in terms of how we can reflect that in our store, right? We've got a lawyer, an architect, a librarian. Shout out to librarians. We've got early childhood. We've got someone who literally restored this building with their own two hands. Like, you know what I mean? We have so much going on that we can look at the aspects of everything. And if we don't understand something, we can either look to someone who has a connection to that aspect of the business or that aspect of something, right? So we very much, we're a very curious forward type of entity, as it were.
Catherine, I realize you're a poet. Are you also a librarian, or are you shouting them out because they have a special place in your heart like they do for us here on the Metro?
Oh no, I'm not a librarian.
Okay.
Shout out to libraries. I mean, seriously, they're pivotal. They're important. It's bookstores and libraries are really holding it down right now in terms of third space and creative exploration and exploring identities and worldviews, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I had to shout them out.
they're the keepers and defenders of information and imagination. How was this bookstore founded?
Much like any adventure, it started out with, like an idea like, hey, what if we did this? What if we did this? What if we did this? So the building was purchased. And this building is an amazing building. It was built in the 1920s as a bank, and then it was, a bar, a restaurant, and all these other things. And then I want to say in the 2010s, at some point, it was purchased and it became a performance venue. So there would be talks or lectures or performance art. And then in 2017, a pop-up bookstore came in and was like, hey, can we hang out and sell stuff? And then it just sort of kept growing. So the bookstore occupies the entire first floor of the building, although we do not own the building. And we're just sort of there is a lot of intention with what we do, right? We talk about it, we explore it, we explain it to each other, we explain it to ourselves. But the way we're doing this is pretty much, how do we fill the space? How do we keep the space, both physically warm, obviously, let's pay the bills, but like, how do we also keep it welcoming in that way?
And
And that is the continuous thing.
what other things do you offer at the bookstore other than books?
I would love to tell you about all of it. We have really cool community partners that we work with on a monthly basis. Shout out to Intersectional Press, a Detroit nonprofit press that will publish you if just honestly contact them. They run no, I'm serious. They're beautiful humans, and you should check out their catalog. They run an open mic every second Sunday with a rotating feature. We also partner with Networks Artistry Entertainment to do Colors open mic every second and fourth Tuesday. It's a queer ally open mic, and we also partner with the Poetics Lab, which is a nonprofit geared toward performance, identity, and poetry. They come in every other Saturday and do a free drop-in poetry writing workshop. And we also have a curated reading randomly once a month, booked and designed by Field Trip Detroit, Christine Konovnik, who's a wonderful poet. But we also offer 3 free drop-in writing clubs a week as well. Wednesday night from 6 to 7:30 is flash fiction. We had a great time last night. Thursday night from 7:30 to 8:45 is creative nonfiction writing. And then, like I said, rotating on Saturdays, it rotates between poetry writing and poetry revision.
Catherine, it sounds like there are a lot of options here in terms of the community programming that you offer, but we are low on time here, so I do want to keep things moving. You're listening to The Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent.
And I'm Tia Graham. We're speaking with Catherine Batias from Booksui about the value of locally owned businesses. And we want to hear from you. How often do you shop at locally owned businesses? You can give us a call, 313-577-1019, and let us know. We're going to the phone lines first. Catherine, Troy in Ypsilanti. How do you shop locally?
Good morning. I support this local bookstore out in Ypsilanti called Blackstone Bookstore and Cultural Center. It's at 214 West Michigan Avenue. It is a Black-owned business, but it also branches out to other cultures as well. They got artwork, they got music, it's just a beautiful place. They're very welcoming. And I would rather my money go into the community that I work rather than doing it online. There's an appreciation for when you can go actually discuss and talk about a book or request one, and they're definitely more than willing to help and learn from what you have to bring as well.
And Troy, Ypsilanti is one of those cities, those communities where small businesses really do thrive and drive the community. So could you talk a little bit about your shopping habits? Were you ever a person who ordered books from Amazon?
In the early days of Amazon, I believe I did. No more, though, just because I like going on the hunt. I don't really, when it's instant, the instant gratification is not really that fun anymore. It's just I like being on the hunt and asking around and actually talking to a person about a book.
Yes, Troy, thank you so much. That's why bookstores are important and librarians are important as well, and libraries. So, Catherine, bringing you back into the conversation, could you talk just a little bit about that? What keeps you afloat given the constant competition with larger corporations and online shopping?
First and foremost, it's kind of the network we have locally and then also nationally. And then there are alternative platforms, right? There's this platform called bookstore.org, and you can go at the top of their site. It says like shop with a bookstore. You can click on that. So you go to bookshop. You go to the website, and then you click on the thing, and it'll give you by state all the indie bookstores that are attached to this platform. That platform, once you click on the bookstore that you choose, that bookstore will get a cut of the sales from that purchase that you are making. And then we also get a cut from the overall sales, right? This is actually what kept Booksui afloat during the pandemic. And so if you need a book immediately, or you kind of do want to do that casual browse on the phone, you have options. There is an alternative that acts just like Amazon, but is actively giving back. The same with Libro FM, right? So if you have the Amazon audiobook situation, you can switch to Libro, which supports small businesses and gives us a profit share and all that.
And
So that's first and foremost.
yeah, I was going to say, yes, Catherine. I just wanted to throw that out there again. Bookshop.org, bookshop.org. Honestly, as you were speaking, I typed it in really quickly and looked it up, and it's absolutely easy to use, comprehensive. Just go to Michigan. You can see all those listed bookshops. It's really, really great. Robin, you use it as well.
I do.
Yes.
It's a great, it helped me wean myself off of what felt like a really bad habit, which was buying books from Amazon.
Yes.
I mean, it is a bad habit, yeah.
Yes. So, shout out to you and shout out to Troy as well and Ypsilanti. But Catherine, as we continue to go on, there was an organization recently that urged an economic boycott. It happened last Friday. Did your shop feel any impact from that? Did you see more people coming in or even ordering online?
We don't have the capacity to do online orders,
Okay.
which is why we point people toward, and that's one of the drawbacks of our structure, right? Because we are sort of nebulous, and because we are the way we are, we don't do, but then we point you to bookshop.org, which is this beautiful situation. So Friday, here's the thing with Booksui. It is one of those places where, I don't know if this was ever part of your experience, but you ever have that place you went where you're like, you know what, I'm just going to go up there and see who's there and then see what happens, right? That's what Booksui tends to be, right? And so, some days you might have a bunch of new customers that you get to meet. Other days you'd be like, oh, this is my 5 best friends from the bookstore, and we're all hanging out, and we're actually planning a program or a community endeavor or just having a dance, that kind of thing. I don't think we were negatively affected, to be honest.
Yeah. Or even the positive. So just last thing before we let you go, what would you tell folks, especially just, as a small business owner, about shopping locally? Talk about the impact of that.
It's about putting money into a physical place that you can experience and that also reflects the value of your community, right? So you're taking money from your physical pocket, and now you're putting it into the community's pocket so that we can all thrive and have these things together that we share, right? That's why it's important. Because we're really gonna have to be doing stuff together, all right? We're really gonna have to get it done and make sure we're taking care of ourselves and taking care of the people that we live by and love and all these other things. And that's what putting money in the local economy does. Straight into the local economy. Let's do it.
Catherine Batsias is from Booksui. Catherine, thank you so much for chatting with us and sharing your knowledge and love for local shopping.
Coming up, we'll continue looking at the local landscape for small businesses, and we want to hear from you. How often do you shop at local businesses and why? The number is 313-577-1019. This is the Metro on WDET. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Metro on 1019 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham.
And I'm Robin Vincent. Last week, the grassroots group People's Union US called on Americans to boycott major corporations and only spend money at small independent businesses. The People's Union wants to unite Americans to regain control of the economy, the government, and the country's future. And they say to do this, people have to oppose and expose the industries, the corporations, the politicians who've built what they say is an exploitative economy that keeps people in a state of struggle.
So, did local businesses feel some benefits from the recent boycott? As some Americans use their wallets to show their beliefs, we're talking about the impact locally owned businesses have on our communities. Joining us now is Rachel Lutz. She is the owner of the boutique, The Peacock Room. Rachel, welcome to the Metro.
Thank you so much for having me. What a great discussion.
Oh, thank you so much so far. Number one, love your glasses. You said they were from a small business.
Yeah, I got my glasses from Tina at Spectacle Society in Corktown, and she got these from a second-generation woman-owned business in Paris. So that's an example of how those dollars keep reverberating, not just, when you shop small, like your small boutiques also support other small businesses too. So thank you. I love my glasses and
What
I love
is the
Spectacle
shape?
Society.
What do we call that shape?
The cat eye.
The cat eye, and they're sparkly.
Yes. Nice. I was going to say nice, Robin, for describing it, but they're just gorgeous.
Thank you.
So Rachel, how did the Peacock Room come to be?
So I actually wanted to open a store. I knew it was going to be in Detroit. I'm a third-generation Detroit retailer. And I didn't know what it was going to sell, which is usually a key part of a business plan. But living in Detroit since the late 90s, I felt through my experience and anecdotally that the city needed more clothing boutiques. And there was a DEGC study that I saw in 2010 that backed that up. Detroiters spent $200 million that year outside of Detroit on groceries. On apparel, they spent $310 million outside of Detroit. I think that number's probably gotten bigger as online shopping has become more of a thing.
I mean, that's one of the things I complain about often is there aren't the shops or bigger stores that we do for retail in clothing in the city of Detroit. You have to often go out of Detroit and your dollars are going with you outside of Detroit.
That's right.
Yeah, I think about that often. So what does it mean for you to have a locally owned business, especially in Detroit, like you said, third generation owner here?
Second generation Fisher Building tenant and Park Shelton tenant. My parents used to live in this neighborhood. I was an intern in this area at this station years ago in the 90s.
Shout out.
So I wanted to go where I know. I felt like I knew this area and I knew what people wear, what their needs were, what their budgets were. So I really, you know what? I opened the store because I hate shopping and I don't like what the shopping process has become. So this was my little act of protest and public service to the people in the city and to the mostly ladies of Metro Detroit. And I wanted to capture those dollars. Every dollar we spend, it's not partisan, but it is political. Every dollar is political. And I'm going to explain what that means. Your dollar ends up somewhere. Who does it end up with? Where does it end up? What is it paying for? Are you supporting modern day slave labor? Are you supporting poisoning streams? Because you're buying from things produced in countries that don't have the laws or the enforcement that we have. There are even companies with higher standards than the U.S. I will politely shout out Canada. And, some European countries, really have much stricter standards when it comes to labor and the environment than we do. So, all of these things, I know that a lot of boutique owners don't think about this. A lot of major retailers certainly don't care about this. But because of my social justice background, I really try to be very conscious of where those dollars end up and educating people about them. I think that in this climate right now, in this cultural climate in America right now, in this moment, I think more people are starting to pay attention of, wait a minute, how do so few people have so many vast amounts of wealth, and how can we begin to dismantle that? How can we begin to change that? And it really starts with each and every one of us. We've created these pockets of wealth. We've voted for these systems that have concentrated wealth into few hands, and it is within our control to slow the trend, if not reverse it, but we have some lifestyle changes to make.
Oh, do we ever have lifestyle changes to make? Robin, we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
The convenience factor. The convenience factor.
That is a way of modern life. Convenience is part of modern life. I do it too. I'm going to break down for you my own personal household spending.
Okay.
So I am a huge, shop small, shop local advocate. I would say that less than 10% of our shopping ends up in big box hands. Less than 10%. We are a one-car, two-person household. Two pets, I would like to add. But we buy even our pet food. We don't buy it from, a mega conglomerate. We usually get it from, there's a place next to K9 to 5 on Cass here. There's a pet food store locally, or Premier Pet. So there are some local franchises. We do a little bit of delivery. We had previously done Target delivery. We do some Kroger, but I would say 90% of our grocery shopping is done in Eastern Market, right by us. So that money goes directly to the farmers who actually raise my food, or it goes to a reseller, but those resellers are local. And
Rachel, really quickly to jump in, how do you get folks to start to think a little bit more consciously when they are shopping now? Like, how do you, because I hear what you're saying, and I would love to start to model some of those things, but where do people begin to even get out of their own way in terms of convenience and just making sure that you're shopping safely ethically for our country?
You know what? I would argue that the idea that online shopping is more convenient, I'm gonna actually argue with that and say it's falsely so in a lot of cases. And let me walk you through that. So when you come into the Peacock Room, my boutiques, you are able to take 10 things, 20 things into a fitting room, try them on, walk out excitedly with a thing that works. When my industry has the online shopping of women's clothing usually has a return rate of 60 to 80%. So if you were to try on those 10 or 20 dresses, you're even trying on what I'm kind of editing for you. When you're left to your own devices and you don't really know what you're looking for, you're looking at what the algorithm is feeding you. You're looking at, beautiful Photoshop pictures. Yeah, you're nodding your head. You've done this. You've done this.
No, I'm saying the Photoshop pictures get me
Photoshop,
angry.
The AI now. These are not even models that even exist in real life now. You're seeing an idea of a model. So if you were to buy a dress online, and we get these women who come into my shop all the time, I tried online first and I didn't have the time. So I went on my phone and I bought all these dresses and I had to return them all, and then I had to buy more of them, and I felt crummy about my body because nothing works. And because you had no one to help you. You had no way to feel the fabric or how it lays or how it moves on you, how it fits on you. That Amazon box is not going to tell you if your butt looks good in that dress, but a real person will. So, did these women save time? I would say no. They took a 20-minute drive to my store and they were able to see in person what they wanted and walk out with it. So that could have cost them 40 minutes total instead of the 3 hours that they invested trying to find a dress on the internet. And not to mention a lot of the clothing on Shein, Temu. Oh, do we really want to have this conversation? Because I'm about to.
We don't have enough time.
I was going to wish we did, because I'm the person right now. I'm trying my best not to do TikTok shop.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
All right. I won't mention the carcinogens and the hormone disruptors.
Oh, my Lanta.
So.
You know what?
Not only that, it's ending up in the ocean and
ending up in the ocean in Ghana and Haiti.
That's right.
Ruining their manufacturing economies. It's very so. There's a really great documentary called The True Cost. If you want to learn more about fast fashion, but that's a good example of how we've never known so much and so little about what we buy online.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Rachel, we're actually going to go to the phones right now. We have Nia in Redford. Hi, Nia. How do you shop locally?
Hi. Well, I'm really happy to hear you have Rachel Lutz on, because I do shop at the Peacock Room. Great store for beautiful gifts, jewelry, clothing, all of which I have bought there.
Oh, thank you.
I also am a huge supporter of small businesses, and especially women-owned businesses, and I like to support the Helium Studio in Wayne. Unfortunately, they are closing, but they've been a great little boutique for the past 9 years out in Wayne. I had gave up big box shopping many years ago when I noticed how they were detrimental to communities and small family-owned businesses, and I did not like that they put up a Walmart not far from me, and it shut down the local IGA. So I just made it my own personal principle to try not to shop, and I definitely do not shop Amazon. I'm boycotting them for the past 3 or 4 years. I'm able to find things in small shops elsewhere, and books that you mentioned earlier. I like shopping at Literati in Ann Arbor, and also Schuler Books in Grand Rapids is who I shop from online for books.
Nia in Redford, thank you so much for calling this morning and letting us know how you shop locally. Now, we're listening to the Metro. You're listening to the Metro on 101.9 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham.
And I'm Robin Vincent. We're talking to Rachel Lutz of the Peacock Room about the value of locally owned businesses, and we want to hear from you. How often do you shop at locally owned businesses, and why? Call us at 313-577-1019 and let us know. And let's stay with the phones. Mark in Rochester, I understand you own a restaurant. What impact has your restaurant had on the surrounding community?
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon or late morning. So my name is Mark Mendola. I own DeMarco's Italian Restaurant in downtown Rochester. And I really enjoyed the past discussion, and it's very similar with the restaurant industry. I believe that whether it's downtown shopping or whether it's your locally owned and family-owned restaurant, that's important to keep a community vibrant. And I often see where you see great communities where there's great shopping, people can go get some coffee or a great dinner or even just a dessert at a locally owned restaurant or cafe goes a long way to create a greater vibrancy and experience and just a better community sense. So just like the last caller talked about big box retailers, there's also big box chains. And although they may employ people locally, they don't reinvest back into the community like so many other restaurants that are locally owned and do that. So we're very philanthropic in terms of giving back to the local schools and communities where we work and live. And I know that that's a big difference because we feel obligated to support our community. And I'm not so sure that that's the way that some of the big restaurant chains feel. So
Mark,
just like it was big box retailers, we feel the same with restaurants.
Mark, thank you for talking to us about your community ethos. I'm wondering, before we let you go very quickly, how's business been?
Well, it's tough. I think that our consumers are seeing the same things that our restaurants see, which is like higher inflationary pricing. You see wage rates increasing, uncertainty in the market. I also own a Mexican tequila bar. The tariffs in Mexico will have a significant impact on tequila and avocado. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure we don't pass that inflationary cost to our customers. But it's harder. And that is why, again, this is the whole spirit of your show right now, is we encourage everyone to come in, buy locally. So whether that's a retail store, a small boutique store, or even a restaurant, it goes a long way, and we sure could use your help.
Mark, thank you so much for giving us a call. Rachel, did you want to respond to Mark?
Mark, first of all, I've been to your restaurant. It's amazing. Thank you. I hope people tip all of your folks very well. I will also give a back of the house insight. When you eat at a big box chain restaurant, contrary to Mark's, a lot of those major companies, I don't know, like TGI Fridays, like those big chains, they've started privatizing their own distribution of food systems. So there are, Mark may get his produce from Eastern Market or the Fort Street Produce Terminal, but a lot of those chains have taken their own dollars and built their own distribution systems outside of communities. So it's not just when you walk into the business, those dollars that you're affecting, you're also you're supporting that back end supply chain of a chain. So just to think about how complex these things are.
Rachel, that's such a great point. That makes me think of the restaurants that I've worked at in the past, and they were always locally owned restaurants. And I was always struck by the fact that most of the produce, most of the meats and the different things that were ingredients in the dishes we were making were coming from local vendors. And it's fair to say you can't say that same thing about corporatized restaurants. Now, Rachel, this also has me thinking about your thoughts on the so-called economic blackout that happened last week.
Let's talk about it.
Do you think it helped your business? Because we'll remind listeners. So this was a grassroots effort, and the message was don't shop at big corporations, and if you need or want to shop, do it at small local businesses and do it with cash. What did you see?
I was actually really pleased. We had several customers come in that day and cited that that boycott and said, like, I am intentionally shopping small today. I'm paying with cash. That was to, prevent the 3% surcharge that a lot of us pay for credit card processing, also to, hit the banking industry. Here's what I say. I think that boycott had great intention. Let's turn it into a lifestyle. I don't think that a lot of these big corporations really notice it for a day. I think that where you really impact, like, okay, congratulations, you put your Amazon shopping cart on hold for a day. Are you willing to cancel that subscription? Are you willing to, people sat at lunch counters. Are you willing to change where you buy your toilet paper? Can you do that? So really think about the lifestyle changes that we can make to make a big impact. It's not going to be a day out of the year. It's going to be shop local all the time, shop Black-owned businesses all the time, shop women-owned businesses all the time. Look at historically disadvantaged populations. How can you financially support? If you are wanting to boycott Target because you're upset about what they did with their DEI initiatives,
Which is that they unraveled them, essentially.
They unraveled them, but, how often do you intentionally shop Black-owned businesses? Or did you just sit that out because you saw, a graphic online talking about it? No, really think about, okay, well, what can I do to actively support Black-owned businesses? For example, you can be a member of the Michigan Black Business Alliance, like I am, and be an ally member. So don't just look at these little purchases of a lipstick here and there, some toilet paper, some hand soap, really, how can you take your hard-earned dollars and how can you use them as small acts of justice?
Small acts of justice. I will say that there are some more boycotts planned and they will take place over several days. But what I'm hearing from you is you're saying people don't need to wait for a boycott. They can just change their behaviors now.
I don't need to boycott Walmart because I won't walk into Walmart. I don't like how they've treated their employees. That's something that's always bothered me. So I just don't step foot in there. There are certain restaurant chains I will never step foot in because I just don't. And I'm not going to, I don't want to get into what my personal values are. I want people to think about what their values are. And if you shop regularly at a big box business, just kind of look into who they support, what their employee culture is. They have a high turnover. Do the employees seem happy there? Those are the companies that I will shop at. But the companies that don't align with my personal values, it's simple. There are so many consumer options out there. I just look somewhere else. And when I shop small, I don't have to think about that too much because I know who those dollars are going to. It's often the owner behind the counter. Or a family member. You don't really have to. Where your money's going when you shop small, and it's pretty significant. So the less you shop at these big box stores, the less you have to think about or research where your dollars end up concentrated.
And quickly, Rachel, before we do let you go, unfortunately, we're running out of time here, but I just want you to talk just a little bit. Once again, give a little tips if you can for folks like myself who I haven't shopped at Target in almost 2 months, and I'm losing my mind a little bit because I was an avid shopper of Target.
Are you saving money?
I am saving a lot of money, a lot of time. I've been shopping more strategically. Shout out to Robin for also giving me tips here and there to help shop in certain places. So, what tips do you give folks who want to just begin?
Be intentional. I mean, being a one-car household, in fact, I lived in the city without a car for 5 years. It taught me to be real intentional with where I shop and what I buy. I really had to think okay, do I really want to rent a Zip car or take a bike ride to buy this thing? And oftentimes the answer was, I could probably do without that. So I would say buy less stuff. I'm telling you as a shop owner, buy less stuff. Buy secondhand. It's great for the environment. It's thrifty. You can use things until the end of their life cycle and buy better stuff. Look at your cost per use or cost per wear. Like the dress that I'm wearing, I throw this in the washer and dryer. I've worn it probably at least 20 times. I own multiple clothing stores, and my own clothing rod is probably about 3 feet wide. So you don't have to spend more when you shop small. I would actually argue that if you really change your lifestyle, you can spend less, be happier, and have less stuff to think about, and fewer regrets of where your dollars end up.
Rachel Lutz is the owner of the Peacock Room. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us on the Metro.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up on the Metro, we'll go from the storefront to the workshop and look at the challenges that local manufacturers and makers in Michigan face. You stay right there with us on the Metro. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Metro on WDET, Detroit Public Radio. I'm Robin Vincent.
And I'm Tia Graham, and we're talking about shopping local today. Do you shop local? Let's go to the phones right now. We have Justin in Detroit. Welcome to the Metro, Justin. How do you shop local?
Well, I'm a local shop owner as well, but I really enjoy just making shopping small part of my daily routine. And so for me, sometimes we can think about like the bigger shopping or like the destination shopping, but it's like grocery stores. So I'm a regular at Harbortown or at Honeybee. And, when you shop small at places like this, you see the same staff members there, and you start to get a little bit of a rapport with them. When I'm out walking the dogs, I live in West Village, and I see the shopkeeper of our local flower store.
Yeah, he's out a lot.
I was going to say, that's our neighborhood, Justin. So,
and it's just nice to like see those shopkeepers and know that when when somebody spends their money in my store, I'm spending it in the businesses that are supporting my neighborhood and creating this value to like the relationships in that neighborhood and creating the culture. So I love supporting small businesses and just trying to like start small, start with what you can. And it's, grocery shopping or some of those basic needs goes a long way.
Justin, thank you so much for giving us a call on the Metro this morning. Really quickly, what's the name of your business?
We are Run Detroit over in Eastern Market.
All right. Yes. Justin, thanks for calling in today. And we've spoken with 2 local business owners this hour to learn if they've been seeing more business amid a national conversation about the wealth and power of big corporations. We've learned about some of the barriers local businesses in Metro Detroit face, especially when their competitors are retail giants that sell goods at artificially low prices.
That's right, Tia. And now we want to go from the storefront to the workshop and look at some of the small business innovations happening in Michigan. Centropolis Accelerator is a program at Lawrence Technological University that supports small to mid-sized manufacturers and people creating hard tech. Those are products that combine hardware and software to solve a problem. So how can this work strengthen the local economy, and what are the challenges to getting started? Dan Radomski leads Centropolis Accelerator and joins us now to explain. Dan, welcome to the Metro.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm a longtime dedicated listener to WDET. Thanks for having me.
That's great to hear. So first, we need to get some clarity from you, Dan. What are some examples of hard tech?
Yeah, the term hard tech really just means physical products. So that can be anything from consumer products to medical devices to something as large as a vehicle. And our organization helps support the development of new physical products, hard tech, and help with the design, engineering, prototyping, and transitioning to manufacturing right here in our home state of Michigan.
So tell me, why did you start Centropolis?
Well, I grew up a machinist right here in Detroit. My dad had a machine shop. I worked on the machinery growing up and spent most of my life in product development and manufacturing. And I really wanted to give back. I really was tiring of seeing all the manufacturing go offshore and and wanted to see what I could do to contribute to getting more products made here.
And your work, it's strengthening the domestic supply chain. Could you talk about that? What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so, there's no surprise that over the last 20 to 30 years, we have increasingly offshored a lot of our industrial base, right? Whether it's electronics, consumer products. And as you can tell, there's a real revival around making adjustments in that area. And a lot of it's because we're recognizing that we have significant domestic supply chain gaps where we just don't make products anymore. And it unfortunately took us going through COVID where that really hit us over the head. We recognize we don't even make our own personal protection equipment anymore, like masks and medical gowns. And everybody was scrambling to try to figure out who could help supply those critical materials to the frontline caregivers during that pandemic. So that has actually been to our benefit in trying to sell Let's Make It Here again in Michigan. And obviously the Governor Whitmer's really leaned into that, Make It in Michigan. And we're a big part of making that happen here in the state.
And Dan, this is Tia Graham jumping in really quickly. I'm thinking about the manufacturing gaps businesses that you work with are trying to fill right now. I know that there are, so many different things that were highlighted during the pandemic in terms of the way that our supply chain actually works. So can you talk a little bit about those gaps?
Yeah, so let's just take electrification for general, right? We're bringing, not just passenger vehicles and electrifying. It's everything from your lawnmower to your bikes and even outside in aircraft, marine, rail. A lot is going to battery propulsion or battery assist related products. And if you trace the critical components all the way down to raw materials, you'll see that we have very little mining and material processing and production of some of the key components that go in our batteries, like nickel and cobalt and lithium and copper, for instance. So a lot of that is dominated by China and other countries. And our federal government has obviously paid quite a bit of attention to this, including under the Biden administration and now under Trump administration, to try to provide support to get those supply chain gaps addressed through new investments.
And protecting and strengthening domestic manufacturing is part of the idea behind President Trump's tariffs right now. Do you think those tariffs are necessary to do that?
Well, tariffs can both support reshoring and reindustrialization, but they also can have a negative impact. I'll give you an example. Our automakers, for instance, they do a lot of their manufacturing and assembly of their products right here in the U.S., but they're heavily dependent on the components that go into those vehicles that are assembled here that are being imported into the country through China, Mexico, and other parts of the world. So that actually raises the price of their vehicles, which means they have to pass that on to the consumer and the MSRP price of their vehicles. So it obviously in one part, it is positive in that it should and likely will result in new investments in new domestic manufacturing operations. But at the same time, it's going to raise price to cost of goods sold of products.
And Dan, as well, we see that we have some, once again, issues in that manufacturing, those gaps. My sister right now actually works within an industry that heavily relies on our supply chain right now, especially in the automotive industry. Whenever we see, something not making it over from wherever it's coming from to Detroit or Metro Detroit, her job is impacted. So can we just talk about what it means to truly bolster this manufacturing industry here in the city of Detroit, Metro Detroit, and in Michigan, and how it will help us become a little bit more self-sufficient here in the state?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question you pose, because it's not just the ability for us to make things here, it's the economic impact and multiplier of us making things here domestically. So as we take on manufacturing a new product here, we're sending other jobs to the local supply chain. I'll give you an idea. Our clients alone have contracted millions of dollars to other suppliers as they've launched their products. And we're very fortunate to be able to even keep track of the economic impact that's had to the local supply chain. And manufacturing in general, the sector is rather significant. Why there's hundreds of thousands of jobs in manufacturing. For each manufacturing job, there's many economic impact reports that show that at least 8 other jobs are positively impacted in the service sector.
That is quite a bit of jobs there. Dan Rondonsky is the CEO of Centropolis and Accelerator. Dan, thank you so much for joining us on the Metro.
The Metro is produced by Sam Corey, Carrie Jr. II, and Jack Philbrandt. Our engineer is Nate Bender. Our senior producer is David Lyons. The Metro is a production of WDET, a listener-supported service of Wayne State University. This is WDET-FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation.